All right, stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. This is Monday, June 17th. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, come up to one of these microphones. Give us your name and address and tell us what's on your mind. I'm going to ask for a roll call, please.
Cedar?
Here.
Ellery?
Here.
Kinswater?
Here.
Lupa?
Here.
McCord?
Here.
McCartney? Watt?
Here. I'll make a motion to excuse member McCartney's.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. McCartney did call me today and wanted me to pass along that he's very sorry he's not here tonight. His grandson is playing in the Time Trail All-Star game, and he just could not miss that. I'm going to ask for a motion from council to add a presentation tonight. We are fortunate to have Justin Westmiller from Homeland Security here, and we'll add that if someone make a motion to add the presentation.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor. Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's go to consent agenda. I'm sorry, opposed? All right. We'll do the presentation after consent agenda. Consent agenda A, City Council minutes of June 3rd, 2019, regular meeting and closed meeting approved, and Cemetery Board minutes of May 14th meeting recommendation received.
Motion approved. Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Westmiller.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. I just wanted to kind of join everybody here in St. Clair. Haven't had an opportunity to be down here in St. Clair and visit and talk about the flooding that we're having in the county. First off, I wanted to talk a little bit about what the water level is doing and why the water level is so high here in St. Clair County and basically in all of the Great Lakes. Normally we'd have a PowerPoint presentation, but just due to logistics, it's a little easier if I just kind of talk about it a little bit. So I've got a big voice. If you don't mind, it's easy enough for everybody. I'm just going to, do you need me on mic? Do I need to carry one around?
Probably for TV, sure.
Is that okay if I grab this one then? Sure. Mess
Yep.
everything up? I feel like I'm at a 1980s rock concert. All right. So basically, here's the issue. So in the last 2 winters, we've had a 90% plus ice coverage over all the Great Lakes. So when that happens, we have a failure to burn off the water or a lack of evaporation. So that is a significant issue for us, number one. Number two, we've had a very significant rain total here. It's something like 117 days worth of rain in the last 167 days. So you add all of those things up, plus the winter was pretty heavy up north. I think they had something like 300 plus inches of snow. Anybody want to go up there and live through 300 inches of snow? I'm pretty certain I don't. So you get all of those things, and it all adds up and is very cumulative. And all of that rain, all of that snow, all that runoff has to come somewhere, and Lake St. Clair is a collection point for all that runoff. So we set a record in May for an all-time record for water height. I believe that number was something like 577.2. Right now, as I just checked it, we're at 577.95. That I believe will set a June record, and we're already like, it's the 17th of June, okay? So what they'll do is they'll take a look, and we'll set a 100% record at some point, but we're already above the baseline record for June. We expect that we will go above the 578.50 all-time record for the Algonac area sometime before the end of July. And if you live anywhere basically below East China, you will have probably a significant flooding issue if you're anywhere on or near the water. Okay, that's a problem. It probably won't cause significant flooding in the St. Clair area, although there may be some minor flooding. But what we think of significant or major flooding is 18 inches or more in your house. Okay, that's what FEMA calls major. I know it's funny, right? Here's why I think it's funny too. But major flooding is anything that would get to a electrical receptacle in your home. That's when they call major flooding, or your house becomes unlivable. It's also the point at which most gas meters would be flooded out and they'd have to be turned off. That's where they put the breather on gas meters. So let me tell you what I've learned a lot in the last 4.5, 5 months being the emergency manager and having to deal with flooding. I've dealt with a lot of different incidents in my career. I've even dealt with flooding, but not inshore flooding like this. So that's what we're dealing with right now. The water level we expect will rise. It's risen almost 4 inches in the last 12 days due to all the heavy rain that we've gotten here. So we are kind of along for the ride. One of the questions I get most, and I know that councils received it, I know that a lot of our councils receive it, is how do we stop the boat wakes? Does anybody, do I have any residents on the water here? Yeah, that's something you all are asking a lot, right? So we have 4 sheriff's boats in our inventory, and they're out on the water every day, or most days, as long as there's crews to operate them. We've also, the sheriff, Tim Donovan, has also deputized 7 Clay Township officers to operate under the sheriff's purview and write the 200, 600 rule tickets in the Clay Township area and in areas adjacent to Clay Township. What he means by that is, and I'm speaking for him because I can in some portions, they're not going to be operating at the north end of the county, right? They will be operating in or near their area and using the sheriff's authorities. So that's 7 more officers that can use the Clay Township Fireboat and Clay Township Police Boat to issue tickets if need be. We're also using the Coast Guard, the DNR, CBP Air and Marine, and CBP, Border Patrol, federal assets and state assets, DNR and state police, when they're available, to also work those issues, okay? So the short of it is, though, is there are many, many more vessels than there are patrol assets to patrol those wake violation issues, okay? We just cannot catch all those boats all the time. It's just not something we can constantly do. The other thing that we're going to end up doing at some point is potentially having to provide search and rescue resources to help people that are being impacted by flooding. So those are some of the issues that we're also dealing with. All right, so that's a little bit about flooding. That's a little bit about what we're dealing with in the flood incident. And I just kind of wanted to get out in front of everybody and hopefully provide a little bit of information so that you knew a little bit of as much as I did. All right, so are there any questions? I know I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but I do want to be available to answer a few questions. And I'm also going to stay till the end and be available afterwards to answer any questions. So maybe just 3 or 4 questions real quick, and then I'll put it back. Yes, sir.
What relationship do you have with the Southern Channel?
Sure. So as soon as you cross the international line, there is no 200, 600 rule. That goes away, right? So, so that's kind of how that works. I have a great relationship with our Canadian partners in emergency management as well as law enforcement, but that 200, 600 rule is only enforceable to the international line. Now, I will push you to the sheriff's department to let them figure out how they want to enforce that, but that it would be hard to figure out where that international line is, but there is an international border there, okay? In the areas where the border is only 700 feet across, that border is halfway in between. So you would have to talk to the sheriff on how they're enforcing that. But it would be difficult to enforce the 600-foot rule when the border is only, 350 feet to the other side. I think there's only a couple places, and I don't think it's in St. Clair, where that would be an issue. But you would have to talk to them. It would be pretty hard to enforce that when it's 700 feet across. If that makes sense. Yes, sir.
So, if the rule is 200, 600,
Yep.
no way. This means no way.
Okay.
So if you're pushed up against even 350 over, it's still, if your boat's bigger than
26 feet.
25 feet or
26 feet.
it's still no way, no matter what.
That's what the law says.
I mean, I live on the river and we're getting killed, just probably killed every day. Almost every boat that comes by, they drive by and look at the end, and they're dogging through, they're going slow. But they're making probably big, I'd rather them go full throttle, they're making such a big wave. Let me tell you, if that's no wake, and I drove in the harbor doing there no wake, oh my God, you would have, I don't know if they can put some signs in every, when they're going out under the bridge, because I think people they just don't know. They think they're doing us a favor driving slow, and it's almost worse.
Yes, sir.
What sort of publicity have you been able to initiate to make the public aware? Because we all are aware, but I think what the voters are thinking about what's happening with their big offshore.
Yep.
The other issue I have a question is, what sort of regulation have you issued to the freighters?
So the freighters are not regulated by anybody local. They're regulated by the U.S. Coast Guard, right? And so the federal regulation states that they're required to go 12 knots. What we have asked them to do, and they have almost all complied, is we've asked them to check down to 9 knots, and almost all of them have checked down to 9 knots. They're not required to do that, and we have not, and the Coast Guard will not put in an additional regulation to have them check down lower than 12 knots. Okay, the request has held up for the most part, and that's where we're at there. Locals have no authority or jurisdiction with freighters. Period. They're part of the maritime transportation system. There are billions of dollars a year that happen with the freighters, and that's just the way that is, if that makes sense. Yep. Yep. Well, it's not even that. But most of those captains have checked down to 9 knots, and we're very thankful for that. So, and what was your first part of the question? I apologize.
What sort of publicity?
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So from my office, we've been putting out automated messaging on all of our social media to talk about wake issues. I've put out chartlets and maps and everything else talking about the 200, 600 rule, both on my personal Facebook and Twitter and everything else, and on our public Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and everything you can think of. And we've partnered with the Sheriff Department. Actually, they've partnered with us. They've been the lead on it. Steve Campo's been the lead. And we've been on all the Detroit Metro news stations. We've been working with Macomb County to get all the transients coming from Macomb County. We've been very active in that.
Can you distribute something you get gas jobs? Because all voters need gas. And I put a big other piece of paper that, that might make a emphatic message to them. Because if they don't go online or look at social media, they don't get them. Go to get gas, and pretend gas that we get paper with regulations.
Yeah, I'll pass that along to Steve and let him work that. So, all right, sir, that'll be the last question. Yes, sir. No, I don't believe it will. So here's why. One, the boats going 100 plus miles an hour are throwing like a 2-inch wake, right? It doesn't. I don't think it'll have any issue with those boats traveling at speed. If anything, they're throwing most of their wake 3 feet in the air. Okay, so it doesn't. From my vantage point, and I have 21 years of doing boat safety. Right, I was a Coast Guard commander. I'm pretty well versed in what happens on the water. I don't think it has any issues with any sort of wake damage, especially since most of it, half of it is along the boardwalk. There is some interaction on both sides with some residential homes, but those boats are throwing less than 6 inches of wake when they're on a plane. So I don't believe it'll have, in my opinion, it's not a threat. All right. Thank you guys, and I will stay till the end of the meeting. So appreciate everybody's attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you all.
Thank you, Justin. All right. Go to number 5. Ordinances and resolution. A, ordinance adoption 2019-02, rezoning of 678 North Riverside from PUD to R1.
Your Honor, before council for adoption is a proposed ordinance that gives effect to a recommendation made by the Planning Commission back in May that would rezone 678 North Riverside from its current PUD designation back to R1.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance.
I'll support.
All right, the motion's made to support. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Your Honor, for clarification, we should clarify what the question is. Yes vote will mean it goes back to residential. Is that correct?
A yes vote turns it back to R1
Is there any discussion, Mayor, about this?
right now, sure.
I just want to go on record to say that I appreciate the support that everybody is giving. If you're having a change of zoning within your area, I really understand where that concern can come from. But I also would like to just make you aware that if you have certain zoning on your home and it's automatically changed underneath you, that's a concern also. So all those things being said, I think the biggest fault that Mr. Evans had was the fact that he let time lapse rather than taking care of what he was supposed to do. But it's a concern of mine that somebody buys a piece of property zoned one way and then we change it underneath that person's feet without any type of discussion. So that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? All right, let's call the roll, please.
Ellery,
Yes.
Kinsfater,
Yes.
Krupa,
Yes.
Report,
Yes.
Watt,
Yes.
Cedar,
Yes.
carried, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Go to B, ordinance adoption 2019-03, adoption of verbiage from section 11.4.3 of the city ordinance into section 8.27, Mr. Booth.
Your Honor, before council for adoption is a proposed ordinance that again gives effect to a recommendation from the Planning Commission that would change section 8.27, which is the Clinton Avenue sub-district of the downtown development district. It would change permitted uses and special approved uses within the district to allow single-family and multifamily homeowners to rebuild their homes in the event of a catastrophic loss. That is currently not an option as the ordinance is now written.
Make a motion. Support.
Well, motion's made. Support. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Kinsfater,
Yes.
Krupa,
Yes.
Report,
Yes.
Watt,
Yes.
Ellery,
Yes.
Cedar,
Yes.
carried, Your Honor.
Thank you. Reports of administration, we have nothing from Mr. Booth tonight at this point. Mr. Downey, have anything?
I have nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Any city departments out there? We'll go to D, authority, boards and commissions. Anybody have anything? We have no unfinished business. We'll go to number 8. New business A, St. Clair Parks and Recreation Commission 2019, local millage distribution of funds.
Yes, Your Honor. The request for local millage distribution requires approval by the local governing board. A copy of the request form and summary of the local distribution is provided for your review. The document was completed using the recreation portion of the city audit provided by Mike Booth, City Superintendent. This is the 25th year that the St. Clair County Parks and Rec Commission will distribute funds back to the local units of government. As stated on the form, local millage distribution will be used to fund City of St. Clair Park, recreation, and open space land projects.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion's made. Support. Any questions? The amount is $24,089.57, and that's about what we get each year, right around there. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we've got some special events tonight. Jody's here. All right, the first one is the special events permit, St. Mary's Catholic Church procession.
The chief is requesting approval for a special events permit for the St. Mary's Church to hold their annual walk around the perimeter of the church on June 23rd, 2 p.m. 12 p.m. until 2 p.m. We have all the necessary documents that are in compliance within the city ordinance.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll go to C, special events, St. Clair Garden Club to tour of the special gardens.
Chief is in receipt of a request for approval for a special events permit for the St. Clair Garden Club to hold their annual tour of the Special Gardens 2019. This event will take place July 13th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. All necessary documents have been received and are in compliance with the city ordinance. He respectfully recommends approval for this event.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? D, special event, Relay for Life Poker Paddle.
Chief is requesting approval for a special events permit for the Relay for Life to hold a kayak poker paddle, starting at the Boat Harbor on July 20th, 11 a.m. Their address is 902 South 2nd. We have all the necessary documents that are in compliance with the city ordinance.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One more, special event, Chamber of Commerce parking lot party.
Chief is in receipt of a request for approval for the special events permit for the St. Clair Chamber of Commerce to hold the parking lot party with food and beverage being supplied by local restaurants. This event will take place in the beloved Neiman's parking lot on September 22nd, starting at 5 p.m. All the documents have been received and are in compliance with the city ordinance. He respectfully recommends approval for this event.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Joey. Number 9 is claims and accounts for June 6th, June 13th, 2019.
Hearing no questions, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve as presented. Support.
Motion's made, support. Anything, questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's go to number 10, public questions and public comments. Anybody have anything for the good of the group tonight? Mr. Kleeman?
I asked last meeting about the puddles on Clinton, the stone that washes down on Oakland. Any answers?
Yeah, so that Wednesday, so on Monday we had the meeting, on Wednesday morning, if you remember, it just rained torrential. And I went down to, I think it's Ash Street, isn't it? The dumps?
It's you're talking about Oak Street and South.
Yeah, Oak. I went down there, and I went down in front of Burger King and Tim Hortons.
Where the puddles are, correct?
Yeah. And basically, my answer is this, Oak, yeah, we do need to look at that and address and figure out something for drainage there. But the other, I didn't really see anything out of the ordinary based on how much rain we had.
If there's a puddle in the concrete in the gutter, it's not rain, okay? It's made to run, not sit.
Yeah.
That's totally up to you. My other question is, 2nd Street, how long is it gonna be closed down? Closed?
2nd Street,
Yeah, 2nd Street.
over behind mall there.
No,
Cargill Salt.
behind Cargill Salt.
I didn't even,
Blocked off.
How long is it gonna be closed?
I don't know.
You don't know.
No, I don't
Did
know.
they ask the city to close it?
2nd Street? I can find
There's
out.
more to it closing the street than just putting up a couple signs. You have to come to the city and get permission.
Behind Cargill?
Yeah. Well, my question is, how long is it gonna be closed?
I don't know the
And
answer
was
to
the
that.
proper channels gone through to close it?
I don't know the answer to that, no.
All right, let me know next meeting.
Anybody else?
Mayor and Council, I'm Dwayne McAllister, 1025 North Riverside. I wonder if we could have an update on the status of the road diet on North Riverside, when we might see it, and exactly what might we see?
Based on MDOT's discussion with Mr. Booth, they were going to start last week.
They did work on the light.
Yeah.
That's
They
where they're covered.
did some reconfigurations of the light at Clinton and M29 for left turns.
Left turns.
That's what we were told, that they were going to start last week.
That's what
Okay,
the
well, I mean,
rate-
surely there's going to be more that's done, right?
Yeah.
When might that happen? I mean, is this an imminent project or
It's gonna-
completion?
I think probably the weather is what's throwing them off. But we were told last week, but they were out last week doing the lights. Maybe that's for them. That's the start.
Okay, so the answer is soon.
That's the thinking. Yeah. Anybody else? Mr. Hayes?
Fred Hayes, 709 Clinton Street. I received, and I want to thank Ms. Sturdy for assisting me in getting the investigation from the chief, reference 602 South 8th. In the chief's investigation, he states, or he feels, what he's looking for is what a reasonable, intelligent, prudent person would believe is a crime. I don't believe what we're looking at here at 602 South 8th is a crime. It's just a violation of an ordinance. Mr. Root is just plain not living there. Last fall, you suspended his license for about a month. He got his license back. And when he got it back, within 3 months, check that, within 3 days, again, he's not living there at 602 South 8th. I brought this complaint to the office on February the 11th. The chief never even got it in his own investigation until May the 21st. That's 99 days. I don't understand how it didn't make it from one side of the building to the other in 99 days. Wasn't that big of a complaint, I didn't think. But anyways, once again, in his complaint, the chief, in his investigation, he never talks or addresses the problem that myself and the other neighbors have, is that Mr. Root's not living there. In the time that I surveilled that house, I saw him go in, come out at 5:30 or thereabouts every night, and leave, come back after dark. Of course, it was already dark in November, December, January, February, March. And he leaves again within a half hour, 45 minutes, and then in the morning, he gets dropped back off at either 9th Street or over on Pine Street. And he walks back in between 6:30, and it's a fast walk. It's not a run, but it's a fast walk. He's not living there. He gets in his truck, and I followed him. He goes either down Clinton to 3rd or 4th. He goes right straight back up to Brown back up to his house in the Highlands, pulls in his driveway, pulls into the garage, shuts the garage door, and then he comes back to his home occupancy home, which is 602 South 8th, which he's not living at, and he begins his home occupancy business. Now this business is supposed to be a home occupancy. He went when he was before the zoning commission, he was asked the question, how many clients does he average a day? He said somewhere between 3, 4, or 5. He gets 3, 4, or 5 clients in the first hour every morning, and it continues on all day long. If this is supposed to be like a home occupancy, it's a business. There's no two ways about it. It's a flat business. What the neighbors and I would really like would be to see Mr. Root move his home occupancy business into the business area here in St. Clair. That's one of the things we're asking. When he started his home occupancy, he got a permit to move or redo a window. That's the only permit that he got the entire time. In the meantime, he redoes the part of the driveway. He adds to the area between the sidewalk and the curb and cuts part of the curb out and puts new concrete in. Now my neighbor next to me had to get a permit for that, but Mr. Root didn't get a permit for that. When it finally came for final inspection for this place, he got a final inspection for his plumbing and his electric. All the walls are up, everything is closed in. I don't know how an electrical inspector or a plumbing inspector could ever do this. and pass the electrical and plumbing without being able to see the wiring and the plumbing itself. During the chief's investigation, he admits to the chief when he was asked, how many nights do you stay there? He tells the chief, I stay there four nights out of 7. Well, last Friday was one of those 4 nights out of 7. He didn't spend a night there. He also told the chief that he's an avid jig fisherman, and he fishes all the time. Now, you just heard from the gentleman from Homeland Security, he's probably one of the worst winters we've had in record. I want to know if there's anybody on this council that could jig fish in November, December, January, February, or March of this past year. It was impossible. November maybe. It was impossible. During the time that my complaint, I think, languished between one side of the building to the other, I started getting Facebook messages from different people around the area, and one of them was Mr. Phil Russell, who specifically asked me one of the questions that was in my complaint. Now, if the complaint hadn't made it from one side of the building to the chief, I don't know how he could ask this. And my question was, or in my complaint, is that Mr. Root is supposed to be living there 24/7, but on Thursdays, he has no trash. No trash whatsoever. But Mr. Russell sent me a Facebook message and says, is that all you got to do is watch people's trash? Now, the only way Mr. Russell could know that is if someone in City Hall read my complaint and passed it on to him, or he got a copy of that, which I don't really care. But again, in my previous employment, when we would sit on houses, one of the things we would do would go get the trash, and the bad guys did leave trash. And that's how we found a lot of stuff out. Mr. Rude is not leaving any trash. It wasn't until maybe a month and a half ago, all of a sudden, Mr. Rude started putting out trash on Thursdays. So I really think that this needs further investigation. Mr. Rude is not there. I mean, you can sit there and watch every night. He parks his truck there. He'll leave within 35 or 40 minutes. The next morning he gets dropped off either on 9th Street, over on Pine Street, and he comes in as quick as possible. And then he gets in his truck and he leaves. Sometimes he doesn't even go back into the house when he gets dropped off in the morning. He just goes right straight across his porch into his truck and sits there and gets the windows cleaned off, and then he leaves. And he goes back up to the Highlands, gets ready, comes back to his home occupancy business. I really believe that this should be looked into further. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Okay, any other public comment or questions?
Thank you, Alex Ruffin, 750 North Riverside. I'll try to be a little bit more brief. I'm glad I don't live next door to Mr. Root. Given the change in zoning, I would be interested in knowing if the council would in the future be willing to consider addressing the ordinance number 2015 that was approved by the planning committee. It had to do with the permanent zoning of everything on North Riverside from Brown Street north.
That's been to planning?
I'm sorry?
I don't think that's been to planning yet.
That I understood that, and if not, then we'd be willing to go through the process. That's fine. I'm just curious about that.
Has planning addressed that at all?
We discussed it one time, but I don't remember the outcome. We'd have to check the records.
Okay,
Well,
so it'd go through zoning. Is that correct?
Planning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, let's go to number 11. I have kind of a long list here, so everybody be patient. First off, I do want to express condolences on behalf of the city to Chief Raker. His father passed away this morning, so he's dealing with that. Our thoughts are with him. And I need to make an apology to Mr. Kleeman. Last meeting, he came up and asked about the budget, about water rates, and I misspoke. When I had talked to Mr. Booth about water and sewer rates, Mr. Booth talked to me about the state coming up with this new program, and that at that time we'll have to raise rates, and that's what I thought he meant. But what he meant was we have to raise them now, and we might have to raise them then. So I apologize to everybody for that. That's all on me, not on Booth. He said it. What I thought I heard, I didn't really hear, I guess. But I do have the new rates in front of me, and I'm going to share those with you right now. And these are effective October 1st, 2019. Bear with me. The readiness to serve charge for 5/8, which is most of you out there, is going up 3% from $8.28 to $8.55. The commodity charge is going up 12 cents per 1,000 gallons of use for water. In the sewer, there's no change to the readiness to serve charge. There's a 2%, which is 9 cents per 1,000 gallons in the sewer. And I have that right here. If I just went too fast, you're more than welcome to come up at the end and I'll just let you look right at it. So that's my thing on that. The next thing I have to do, regretfully, I received this June 12th, Dear Mayor Cedar. I'm writing to let you know that I'm resigning from my position as Superintendent Finance Director of the City of St. Clair. In accordance with the terms of my employment contract, I'm providing for full notice of 30 days. My last day will be on July 12, 2019. As I believe that it may take some time to find my replacement, I'm willing to work after that time if mutually agreed. This was a tough decision to make. City of St. Clair has done a great job in things for my career development. I greatly appreciate the amount of time and effort the city has invested into my professional growth and all the opportunities you have given me. Please let me know how I can help you out with my replacement. I'm more than happy to train him or her and accelerate their transition period. Wish you and the City of St. Clair all the best. Sincerely, Mike Booth. And I'm sure he won't mind. He's taken a position as finance director in Marysville. So good luck to him, and I'm hoping we get to see him at least one more time in here. Next thing, council, I need you to think about this. The second meeting in July, hoping that Annette will have put together a package for us to have a work session, and we can talk about how our agenda is arranged, everything from consent agendas down through public comments, and come up maybe just to kind of make things work. Always look to improve a little bit, you know. So that'll be like the second meeting in July probably, because we're now supposed to be working on all this MML stuff with Mr. Booth and getting all that out there, getting advertisements going. The next thing I have is June 22nd. That's this coming Saturday is the Beer and Wine Festival downtown. The art fair is the 29th and the 30th. The Alfred Dodger is the 29th. The historical grand reopening is June 20th at 7 and June 21st at 1 o'clock. We'll have a meeting before the 4th of July. Michael Porter's promised me that we're all going to be a lot of news and odds that night. Right?
It's going to be better.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions about all that stuff? Again, Bill, I'm sorry about that. I just missed. That was all me. All right. I guess we'll go to number 12.
Hearing nothing else, Your Honor, make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. You were cordial. You were good people tonight. Thank you for coming down. Be careful going home.